culture. I'm adjusting the culture, huh? Adjusting the culture. I'm adjusting the culture, huh? Adjusting the culture. I'm adjusting the culture, huh? Adjusting the culture. I'm adjusting the culture. We gon' talk about it. Come adjust the culture. We gon' talk about it. Come adjust the culture. We gon' talk about it. Come adjust the culture. We gon' talk about it. Come and adjust the culture, huh?
Another Dress the Culture. We on and popping. This your man PStock, Grandmaster Darren Tibon. You know, and that's what we do, addressing the culture. You know, Big Wallll couldn't make it tonight. He'll be back on. He catch the next episode. But this is Address the Culture. We have a great show tonight with icons and martial arts.
Some of the greatest icons in the world.
Martial arts and entertainment and whatever you look at with martial arts. I mean, right down to the physical security and you know, and everything. I mean, this is great. You know, I mean, we have returning. We have Ron Van Clief, who's been on the platform before. Great show. You definitely want to catch the Hangman. Go out and purchase that book. Buy it. Go out and collect it. I mean, credible story. We have Joe Steve Muhammad, who has been on the platform before. That, you know, another great icon, you know, in martial arts, the BKF for real. You know, that's, you know, enough said. We have Tasso Allo back. You know, he's been a regular coming through, popping in on the shows with the FMA and the legacy shows and everything with Darren. It's great, you know, great episodes. And tonight we have another guest that we're going to bring them all in shortly. We have Dacascos on the show tonight. You know, another iconic martial arts figure. You know,
great icon. We got,
as the hip hop kids say, you know, it's like, man, this is an iconic show right here. You know, we have legends. You know, in fact, you know, and that fits in with the legacy. So, Darren, how does that with these iconic guests that we have tonight, and you know the history better than anybody, you know, better than me, you know, how does this show make you feel, you know, about these legends, these icons that we have on board?
You know, brother PStock, you know, brother Audi 19, you know, we got one late night, you and brother Audi 19, you know, we hooked up on the phone and started talking about it. And it started off legacy for the legacies that I started almost a dozen years ago. And the beauty of where this turned into, it was predominantly Filipino martial arts. And now what we have done is open this up to all martial arts. And in doing so, we really concentrated on a lot of the systems that came by way of Hawaii, the Hawaii great grandmasters that taught a lot of these gentlemen that we've had on this show. And, you know, Dacascos, all of them has touched bases with people that came by way of Hawaii. And it's the same for Filipino martial arts. So many great Filipino martial artists went from the Philippines to Hawaii here. And a lot of them stayed there on the islands. But, you know, today we have three great icons here. You know, Joe Steve Muhammad, BKF. Okay, you got the great Ron Van Clief. Okay, actor. Oh, so many films he has filmed.
Black Dragon, you know.
Yeah. Black Dragon, you know, I mean, it's just on. And now you got the great Dacascos, GM Dacascos here today. And I think what's unique about this is going back probably 55 years, these guys were competing at the Long Beach Internationals and World Tournaments.
Yes.
And to have these three great legends come on the show today to see each other and talk, you know, and just chop it up. What more could we ask for a 2023 first show? Okay, yeah, we've heard that.
This is
And
big.
all of these three gentlemen are legends. They're legends. I grew up, reading about, and everybody I knew talked about them. And they come from my sensei's era. My first sensei, Sensei Rodney Hu, was on the 1970 USA team and went to Japan to fight too. So my sensei comes from these three great men's era, but that's all I read about. These three men, and of course several others, but these three men right here, that's all you heard about. But as far as the pillars of Kaji Kempo and the history of it, and the great Emperado, Chow, these guys, they were amongst that. Okay, they were a part of that, coming to Northern California, and Jim Dacascos. Hey, it's an honor to have him on the show today, especially with Joe, Steve Muhammad, and Jim Ronda and Clief, and to get them together at one time.
Yes.
We could only imagine. We could only imagine their stories on what they could share.
Right here on Address the Culture.
Yes, on Address the Culture, iHipHopTV, bro.
Right here on Address the Culture.
For me, this is huge. This is huge.
Yeah.
Really huge for me.
And we're gonna make it happen. These guys, they know each other. The camaraderie is great. You know how we like to do on Address the Culture. We like to kick back with the nice vibe and environment, and that's let these guys, bless us, enlighten us with all the knowledge that they bring in forward.
Yeah.
So
I had invited Palaka Namahoy and Tasi. Tasi, I believe, grew up. Yeah, he grew up, I believe, with Jim Dacascos' brothers. Okay, and I think they came up in the same area. Palaka, I know a lot of these gentlemen might know Palaka's teacher, the late Sonny Gascon, and several other teachers that Palaka Namahoy, trained under. So that's why I wanted to invite Palaka. Palaka's tied up right now. He can't make it. We got Brother Tasi on here, and these three great icons. And I'm anxious. I'm excited to listen to their history. And this is what it's all about. Legacy,
right.
brother. This is
legacy. This is legacy right here. This is iconic legacy right here. And a lot of these guys are the gatekeepers for what's happening in martial arts right now. Yep, it looked like Ron. We have so I'm gonna bring Tasi in real quick because Tasi, the same thing. You come in, you grew up with the brothers of Dacascos. What was that like coming up? In Hawaii.
His brother Arthur or Artie and his brother Alan, but Art was the one that was close to me. We both were musicians, and he also shared Al's books. And that's when I first seen what a Tai Chi textbook looked like. And, when I was looking at the poses of all the masters, and then all of a sudden I said, man, that guy's holding a ball of light. That's when I realized the energy comes out of the palms of your hands. And that if you know how to intensify that chi in you, you can literally hold a ball of light between your hands. So, and that's why I always remembered Al Dacascos, because he was a great tournament fighter. He was being groomed by Joe, and I think his teacher was Asuncion. So he got some taste of the sticks too. But his family, when I was growing up with his brother, they were known as musicians. But a lot of musicians are martial artists. That's what a lot of people don't know. But that's the reason. And since I had a feeling Palaka wasn't going to make it, I said, hey, I'll jump in, because they'll remember when I say who I used to live with in Fairfield, and he's going to go, what? I used to live with Tony Ramos. And he'd ask me, we talk all about the stuff back in Hawaii. But his brothers and his books influenced me. And like I said, like how I told Steve Muhammad about my dad being at Chosin in the Korean War, where they ran out of ammunition and they had to fight hand to hand to survive. How he told me, "You're going to learn martial arts because you run out of bullets, you better have something else." So,
It's like Cjo Reynard Lozada, same thing.
Yeah, Reynard, Cjo Reynard. We heard about that one. Yep, we got it in. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna jump off. We're gonna pay a quick bill. Then we come back. We're gonna bring these icons on here, because I don't like to impede progress, and I want to give these guys as much time as they need and have to give to us to get messages out and let's talk and bust it up. So this is Address the Culture. I'm your man PStock. Blessings to Damar Hamlin. He's rise, he's breathing, he's up. Big shout out. Let's go.
God is good.
Back after this blessings. Right after this blessing. Let's go.
What's going on, y'all? It's your girl, Lady Luck, and I'm here with the homie Big Wallll, and you are now tuned in to Address the Culture, where we're addressing everything in the culture. Keep it locked.
The legacy continues. So that's what I'm saying. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight. Fubu Radio as well.
Fredro Starr, he was doing New York Undercover, and he wound up coming to the house, grabbing some shirts, and he went out and said, "You know what? I'm gonna shoot this on the show." He shot on New York Undercover. He wound up getting killed in the shirt, but it was like for us, it was like a 30-second commercial. When everybody was here and doing things, we were always trying to figure out how we can zig when others were zagging. You know what I'm saying? And when that third year came, we were so, nervous, but at the same time, we was making the most money we ever made, to date. That's when the whole 350 million thing came into part, because we started, expanding. And now we're in 2020, so I got to see everything. I got to see it go from an 8-track to digital to streaming. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. And the concept behind what we're doing with the radio station is kind of the same concept that we do with the clothing brand, because it's all about our community and giving back and building our people up. But once it got to the 90s and past there, you can't really talk about hip hop without mentioning Fubu.
In the hip hop player's wardrobe,
right.
If you out chilling, that was a staple in it. Are back with the iconic guest. This right here is amazing. We have Cjo Steve Muhammad, we have Al Dacascos, Grandmaster Al Dacascos, and Grandmaster Ron Van Clief in the building. Welcome back to the platform, gentlemen, and welcome to the platform for your first visit, Grandmaster Dacascos. Man, peace and blessings in the new year. Man, it's wonderful to have you on the show. It's man. Cjo Steve. I mean, you guys are all, we got you're a Marine, Ron Van Clief's a Marine, Tasi, everybody's a Marine. I was Old Navy, and you got Old Navy. That's what I feel like. Old Navy, the clothes, not the Navy, but here we go. But hey, this is great to have this iconic. But all you guys have built reputations as great tournament fighters. From back in the day in Long Beach. Can you have you in a tournament, have all three of you met in the same tournament? Have you all bump heads and competed against each other in the tournaments?
I competed against Steve. We fought in the finals in one of the championships, and that was iconic because I remember he throwing a right reverse punch. I threw a left reverse punch, and our fist collided in midair. My knuckle broke, and I don't know about his.
Wow. That's iconic. See, that's what we want to hear. This right here, you know, at the Long Beach Internationals. That's huge. That's huge. You remember that, Steve?
No, I don't remember that. He probably beat me up. That's why I don't remember.
No, Steve, it ended up the other way around. You ended up beating me, and I think you went against Bang Yu or either Joe Louis for the finals. I can't remember that one there. I know that we fought in the finals in the evening, and you came out blasting. And we went straight at each other, and I don't know, for some reason I saw an opening, and I said, man, I'm going to hit him right in the chest. And I guess you probably saw the same thing, because when our knuckles collided in mid-air, both you and I grabbed our hands and started shaking it and started looking at each other and laughing, because I said it was just kind of weird that happened, you know.
That's huge. That's huge. You know, and what I love about it, and that's what Big Wall and I and Aladdin 19 and Darren's vision was with Address the Culture, especially with you guys. You know, we want to make sure that we have you on here so we can get this digital record, so we can saturate the youth today with you iconic guys to try to drive people in. Because when I see you guys, you know, and I want kids to see you. I want kids to understand. I believe me, Damar and his little brother Demir, I sit there and show them the videos. This is what you want to do. Talk about the martial arts training and the lifestyle, you know. So with that being said on it, and this is for audience, how do you like the state of the martial arts community today? You know, the direction it's gone, the way everything is moving. How do you feel about it? How about that today? Steve, we can start with you.
I haven't been to a lot of tournaments, but when I went to the tournament, they don't have the in which we had back in the day. They're not fighters. It's almost like a showmanship or something that they're. I did back in the day when we used to, everybody you got in front of, they could fight. So you had to learn to fight in order to fight those people. And I never remember anybody that couldn't fight back in those days, which meant they had to train hard in order to be able to fight in the manner they did. You had respect for each other. That when we did hurt each other, we immediately apologized, but it didn't keep us from fighting hard as we were supposed to. So I would say the difference is that they're a lot softer. They have the fluid technique which we had in our day. If they want to demonstrate, they look beautiful. When they're fighting, they have the meanness in which we had in the day in which I was fighting. I remember seeing all the fighters. The first time I went to New York, I didn't know about it. And Musa and Lou John Davis and Delgado and all the guys that were in New York, they were great. I had never heard of them until I saw them fight. And I said, man, where did these guys come from? Because I had never heard of them. So I had no knowledge how well they could fight. But they were great fighters. And they were doing such a disservice coming up by not letting me know East Coast and West Coast had great fighters, because I didn't know them. And the first time I found out about them, I was with Chuck Norris and Joe Lewis, and I think it was like Ron Marchini, and there were a few others that were there. And when we saw it, we said, whoa, this is going to be a mean night tonight, bro. These guys can fight.
Yeah. Yeah, that's big. How about you?
Marchini, he's a Stockton guy too. Yeah,
he's a Stockton guy too. Wow,
Yep.
Stockton. How about you, Grandmaster Al? How do you feel about the direction that the martial arts is going in today?
Well, you know, I've got split opinions on that. let me say that in our days when we were fighting, with Steve and Ron and all of those, we started with respect and ended with respect. We respected people, you know, and but when we got into the ring, it was just that now it was competition. We fought for our own honor. Afterwards, whether we lost or won, we still ended with respect because we respected the other person's ability. This what we have nowadays, as I see it, it hasn't been that way. Um, the respect in the martial arts has really gone out the window, and this is why we have a lot of this disrespectful type of energy that is spreading in the martial arts. I'm not saying it's all martial arts, but predominantly I see it coming out of the MMA group, where instead of teaching the foundation of the Bushido, the respect, um, you end up developing people that the head is so big with the ego it just ends up on the floor. Many of that could be said, and that led to a lot of things in my disappointment into the direction that it's going because I come from old school, and old school is for me traditional. You believe in the respect, you believe in honor, you believe in all of the virtues that make you a good martial artist, and that's the reason why when I started the martial arts, I mean, I was a rat. I mean, I was getting all into trouble, but it changed my attitude and it put me into a different mind frame, a mindset. So therefore, for me now, when I look at what's going on, it's almost like my duty to try to bring back some of the traditions that we have. I could go on. I mean, I can name, 9 people that came from Hawaii that was really instrumental of bringing the martial arts from Hawaii to the West Coast and then to the rest of the United States. And sadly, I am the only one alive, and 8 of them has passed away. And that one kind of disturbs me because I understood their mindset, the individuals, because we all came up to the from Hawaii around the same time in the early 1960s, and we all had the ambition of promoting the martial arts, spreading it to California, spreading it to the rest of the United States and to the rest of the world. Somehow along the way, a lot of us has passed away, and we never really accomplished that of bringing unity to the martial arts because it's more divided now than it was when we first began. So I can go on. I mean, let me say that so just for the matter on record, there were 9 individuals that actually brought, from my opinion and from what I know, because I came with those people in the 1960s, and 3 of them actually ended up in Southern California, which was Sonny Gascon, John Leone, and Ed Parker. Um, and then you had Ralph Castro, also from Hawaii, but ended up in Northern California. And then the other 5 that came from you notice that when I said Sonny Gascon and John Leone, these were original Kajukenbo people. The other 2 were Ed Parker and Ralph Castro, that ended up one in Southern California, one in Northern California. They came out of Professor Chow's group. Yeah, yeah. So they came out from Professor Chow's group. Am I coming across or am I coming across static?
No, I hear.
I can hear you.
We hear you clear. I hear you
Okay.
clear. Joe Steve is having a connection issue right now.
Yeah,
But,
I see. Okay.
But
You're
you're
ready.
coming across clear. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, yeah. And the other 5 that came out from Kajukenbo and that really popularized Kajukenbo on the Northwest, I mean, in the California era was Joe Halbuna, Charles Gaylord, Tony Ramos, Al Reyes, and myself. All of them in my group, the 5 of us that came up from California, we had plans of really keeping the Kajukenbo and Kempo karate, really promoting it throughout California and the rest of the world and so forth. These 4, Hal Bruner, Charles Gaylord, Tony Ramos, and Legion Reyes, we all ended up in Northern California, and therefore we formed the Kajukenbo Association of America, which later claimed the International Kajukenbo Association. And we did that purposely because during those times in the 1960s when the Kempo people were competing in karate tournaments, we were getting slaughtered on account that we weren't fighting the karate rules, which had to be the reverse punch, the really steady, and not there were no drop kicks or back fists and everything else this way. So when the Kaji Kempo people and Kempo people got together and formed the association, then we put in our own rules, and now it became more what I call more all style, where we could compete against those that came out of the Kempo, the karate and the Taekwondo system. So therefore, I believe the Kempo system that started out in California had a really heavy influence to the United States, going all the way from there all the way to New York and the East Coast and spreading out to Europe. I think that we did our job. However, all of them have passed, and I am the only one that's holding the candle right now from this group that came up in the 1960s. So it kind of puts me into a moral and ethical obligation to try to see if I can still keep the Capital people from going into individual groups, which is fine. But I mean, I believe everybody can work, like for instance, independent but united.
Yes.
And if we can have that mindset, then we would better establish ourselves to getting into something like into the Olympics instead of having karate or taekwondo dominate the Olympic world. I think that there's a lot of grounds for, maybe I sound kind of, one-sided or prejudiced, but I'm not. I like to see all martial arts are representative, but I see that the Kempo styles at this time, I think it's not that organized enough to unify, to get into some kind of Olympic competition. And that I would like to see if that can happen within my lifetime. I guess Ron and I and Steve, I guess Steve, I guess Steve and Ron, I guess we're all 80 years old and we don't have much time, and we got to be able to push what we have to do.
GM Van Clief, how do you feel about the state?
Wow.
You're a veteran of Address the Culture already, and the Marine Corps, and the martial arts world. So, what do you think the state is direction?
First, I'd like to say I'm proud and honored to be on this show with two of my seniors, Steve Steve, my seniors. They are my seniors. I've looked up to them since I was young in the martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I saw Steve, we were in Panama together doing some seminars. And I got a chance to really ingest his chi. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. It was a wonderful experience. But I'm sort of disappointed with what I see in the martial arts today. In the traditional styles, there are so many grandmasters that it's unbelievable. There are more grandmasters in New Jersey than there are in Japan. It's really too much for me. When I go to tournaments now, it's not like when I started competing in 1960. Now they give me points for almost nothing. It's almost like a game of tag. And there's no respect. They wear anything for a uniform just to make it look flashy. And to me, it looks like a choreographed scene from a kung fu movie, but not as refined. And it's sad. I stopped competing in karate tournaments when I was 60. I got tired of getting punched and kicked and stuff like that. But I've been competing for the past 11 years in jiu-jitsu, and it's been fascinating. No more punches and kicks in the face. Sifu Al came one time and saw me fight at the
wow,
at the Triple Crown here in Hawaii. But it's different. There is no respect anymore. There is no loyalty. Someone studies with you a certain amount of time. They go off. They create their own version of your system, and they are now established. There are so many things happening now. It's a very sad state of martial arts. I would like to see the different organizations really organize and have a curriculum and be able to deal with other schools. I've always been of the free mind that you can train wherever you like. And lots of schools, if you're training there and you want to train at another school or something, they kick you out. They get very upset. And that's not where I came from. Moses Powell introduced me to Peter Urban. Peter Urban gave me the head that I have now to be all-inclusive. Don't be judgmental. Just deal with each style as an individual style. There's no perfect style that does everything. There's no best style, you know? There's no such thing. And there's really no such thing as the best martial artist. You're as good as you are that day, that time, that second, period.
Absolutely.
And I started studying jiu-jitsu with the Gracies 11 years ago. I spent 5 years as a white belt, then another 4 years as a blue belt. In the past 2.5 years, or 3 years, I've been a purple belt. I'm testing for brown belt next month, but I do not feel ready for it. I look at some of the brown belts out there; they're amazing. The technique is fluid. It's seamless. You know, I'm still thinking about what my next move is, my defense versus my offense. At 80 years old, you don't want to get hurt in class. I've had so many injuries. I bit through my tongue, 4 stitches in my tongue. I broke 5 ribs one day. 340-pound guy sat on my chest, mounted me, and broke 5 ribs. So I've had some injuries during this, but not like getting my teeth punched out and knocked out and stuff like I did when I was doing kickboxing and karate competition. But I really enjoy the dojo atmosphere. There's a real Ohana spirit here in Hawaii. I don't care what style you do here. There's a family spirit that's in Hawaii that you don't see anywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
Right out.
Absolutely.
That you don't
That's
see
right.
anywhere in the world.
Yep,
And
they call it
some of the
Ohana.
best martial artists I've ever seen have come through Hawaii. You know, I'm so glad I've been able to be here 11 years, and I plan to be here until I die. But my goal is to make black belt in Helson Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, which I'm on that road. 11 years. I'm still on it 2-3 days a week, still competing. And I'm enjoying the jiu-jitsu competition, but I do not like the karate competition that I've seen in the past maybe 20 years. It's just been going downhill. Very flashy. The scoring is terrible. It may be telegenic, or it might be choreographed so that it looks well for TV or for movies, but it's not martial arts anymore. You know, it's not martial arts anymore. And it's sad. You know, I started in 1959 with Moses Powell at the St. John's Community Center in Brooklyn. I was 17 years old. I was already old. You know what I mean? Really. I had been a gymnast up to that point. So I didn't know anything other than when I met Moses Powell, he was the most amazing individual I had ever seen in my life. He was like Batman, Superman, Hulk, all of that in one. That's my story. And I have so much respect for Steve. He doesn't know. I love you, brother. I do.
I love you.
Al, you know you're my brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
The highest respect for both of you. Forever.
It's an honor.
Yeah, that's huge, you know. And yours are all iconic, and yours all have the same. You had the same answer about the state of the martial arts and the karate today, you know. So that's saying something, you know. So what's the fix? I believe a part of the fix, and I'm hoping, is shows like this, with you saying it, that people get a hold of shows like this and they hear C. Joe Steve saying, no, it's not the same. They hear you say that, you know, so that's the goal. So with the UFC and MMA, has with the emergence of those two, has that changed the landscape? Is that the thing that that's given people that so so that question's up for you and Joe, Steve, and Al. So with that being said, with everything, has the MMA, and I heard you say it out, MMA you think is a part of the problem? Is MMA and UFC, is that really the underlying issue now, where people are just training wild? Because I see a lot of UFC gyms popping up all over the place.
You know, as well as the MMA and UFC is, we look at it as the problem, it is also the solution, you know, because if their culture change, and go back to their roots, we can get back to it. Because what's happening is just that there's two types of people that watch television, one that watch the History Channel and one that watches the Discovery Channel. And the History Channel is something that is past and dead. The Discovery Channel is something that is innovative, something now, alive, and for the future. Now in order to be in the Discovery Channel, you need to know your history. So if people know the history of where they come from, then the problem that was there can also be the solution. That means, how do we get to be where we are right now, and how can we solve that? And that's going to have to come from the guys that are at the very, very top, not the guys at the bottom. The guys at the bottom really don't know shit. It takes the guys at the top to actually lead. And I want to say something. I'm paraphrasing something from Nelson Mandela, who said that if you want to change the world, and have progress, then teach them education. Well, the education comes from actually learning the respect for where our martial arts came from. And if they understand that, even if it was, people say they came from Asia. Well, you take a look at the martial arts. It's not exclusive to Asia. It came from all over the place, the Middle East, from Europe, and from everything. It's just the culture of the way that they fought, on how they begin to develop. And a good martial artist, the ultimate martial artist, is one that has really good virtues and culture. And in order, like how we used to do, we used to say that, when people came into the school, we never really taught them martial arts. What we taught them was character development. And what we need to do is get right back into, from the very one, is teaching character development. Because from the character development, then the martial arts come. Martial arts, as we all know, is just a springboard to developing us and good individuals. Um, you know, we can expound on this and go deep into it. There's a lot of things that can be learned from this, and I think we all, with the years that we have accumulated that much knowledge through our experience teaching one way or the other, and then we come up with the conclusion, hey, you know what? The only way that we're going to have really good people is that they follow the rules. They follow the rules that were set down by the forefathers that actually put the martial arts together. That said, we can just go from there.
That's interesting right there with that. C. Joe Steve with the BKF, though. The BKF seems to be growing. I mean, it's growing, and in the direction that the BKF is growing. How do you feel about that? The new energy and the leadership going forward. How do you feel about that?
Well, the BKF is going to get much better in the very near future. We have some plans for it, and we're getting some money that we've been saving for years and years and years, and we're going to try and build a school, Los Angeles, build one here in Georgia. We have East Coast, and what we have to now to do this. We have a strong body on the East and West Coast that can take care and run that. And many of the older brothers come up at my students, they don't want to do that anymore. We have to new people that are within the BKF doing that. But we want the BKF to never disappear. We want it to be forever. And whatever we have to do, we're going to. We have also in the BKF a new and fighting. And people hear you say that. You say, they'll say, well, you know, how can you do that? So if it's okay with you, I would try to explain that a little bit. Make understand. We created a mathematical fighting that
I gotta go, son.
true, accurate, and precise of doubt or fear that has the ability to speak a water language or feel fluidity naturally by flowing, changing, and creating, which is adaptability. It has the ability to seek and conform, seeking offense, conforming counter offense using a water language of adaptability. I teach them the thought of losing, quitting, or having doubt does not exist in my head, my heart, nor whether if there is doubt, there is doubt. You will make time way. And there is always, always, always another way. And I think that in the science of fighting, people talk about concept. I have never been faced with a theory of concept that was real in the face, not a theory of concept. So I don't understand. I understand of the science.
What's going on, y'all? It's your girl, Lady Luck, and I'm here with the homie Big Wallll, and you are now tuned in to Address the Culture, where we're addressing everything in the culture. Keep it locked.
When you speak on fighting it's not a system, but actually a science for fighting. When I learned Kempo from Danny and Asanto, he gave me a base, a foundation to be able to advance that base or foundation into a fighting science, not a fighting style or system, but fighting science. You have to advance that forever. It never stopped ending. Even today, it's like Ark Wong. I used to go to Ark Wong. I was never his official student, but I would go down, and because I was a fighter at that time, he would say, "Oh, Steve, come train," and I would go in and train with them. I did that for about 3 years. It wasn't consistent, but I learned something about Wing Chun. I took Kempo, Wing Chun, Tai Chi, and boxing. I only had a foundation in Kempo, but I used Kempo for my base of Wing Chun, tapping in center line, Tai Chi, footwork and fluidity, boxing for speed and targeting. And I put that together, and I started years ago trying to come up with a something that was different in the fighting. And I continued to train, began to understand how to think about how the brain or how the body functions as one unit with one purpose and one mind if you're training that way, and that is to win. You have to have that kind of heart in order to fight. And if you don't have that, then you lose. Like I said, losing, quitting a habit does not exist. When I got in front of you and got ready to fight, I never thought that I would
all the way through.
street. And I thought it was teaching my children. That is a wonderful way to teach that whenever you get ready to fight or whatever you get ready to do, as long as it's righteous, then you go at it 100%. There is nothing left behind. There is nothing that you not do to accomplish the goal in which you need to accomplish, as long as it's. And so I think that eating something, Parker told me when I was about a 5th degree black belt, he said, this is great, Parker. He said, Steve, I see you and I watch you. He says, take what I have given to you and make it your own. I did that. Because I made it my own, it became me. Let's see, Regular Master Parker, Danny Santo, and Chuck Sullivan gonna live in my heart. I don't forget what they gave me. And when I speak, I always speak of them as being, and how they taught me. And Regular Master Parker took me to Thailand. I didn't know I didn't know such a thing as Thai boxing. And I got in the ring with this guy. And I noticed when he kicked, he could kick hard. He just didn't hit me. I decided that I would check his kick with my forearms. He smashed my hand into my face and my arm into my body. And I thought, then, my God, this guy can kick hard. I had never been that way before. I didn't know anybody could kick that hard. So I decided that I was going to check it with my leg rather than check it up a part of my body. Put a big whip on the side of my leg. I said, man, I got to figure out a way to get out of here without getting killed. This guy's going to kill me if I don't do something about fighting him. And finally, I had an opportunity. He moved in toward me, but he tried to rush me. And I was able to shoot a left jab and a right punch into the body. Dropped down to the floor. And when he dropped on his knees, I wasn't supposed to make contact with him. But I kicked him anyway. I was trying to get him out of there any kind of way I could get this guy out of there. To come back and fight. I went back into the room. That hurt me in such a way with his kick. I asked Great Grandmother Parker, I said, who won? He says, you did. He said, I told him, I don't feel like I won. This guy's almost. And I learned something from fighting them, that you must learn how to fight, how to do karate. Those are two different things in learning how to fight. So I started developing from that, like I said, from the 4 sciences in which I have some knowledge of. And I only have base in Kempo. 3 others I have knowledge. I put those together. And I remembered Kimbo. And I said, I would call like Kempo, Wing Chun, Tai Chi, and boxing. I would call that Kim Wing, Tai Bok. Kempo, Wing Chun, Tai Chi, and boxing. Kim Wing, Tai Bok is what I named it. And I'm going to try and put that out of the way, and I'm writing a book on it now of the fighting which has been created. I'm going to try and get to the world. And I would like to get my science out there also, for them to be able to see it. Have some and stuff also this year. So
That's big. That's big. That's big.
Fantastic.
That is big. That's huge. And the systems go on, and that's what the legacies are about, and that's what these shows are about. We like to like Ron is going on with the Gracie style. He's in it with the jiu-jitsu and going further, getting the game. I remember on the show before you said you gotta have a ground game.
You have to have a ground game, no matter what style you have.
that is
Gotta have a ground game. And so you agree too, Steve? You agree, Al, too? You gotta have a ground game, right?
Absolutely.
Gotta have a ground game.
I got beat up by a woman that could grapple.
Me too.
I went to school and they just take karate because I was doing protective service work in school. And I was asking the guy, I says, man, I'd like to learn a little ground fighting. That's what I see. So he said, okay. He said, Steve, come on. I'll get you an instructor. He brought the woman out. And I said, I don't want to wrestle with her. I didn't want to wrestle with a woman. It was tougher than her. So she, no, go ahead. She'll help you how to grapple. And she had to get down on like my knees and my hands. And she told me, I'd like for you to get up, off your hands and knees. She grabbed my hand cross. I don't know how the heck she did it, but she grabbed it crossways some kind of way. And I went to the right, and it's like she put a body in the way. I went to the left, and there was something in the, I don't know what it was on that side, but there was something in the way where I couldn't make that flip that I was trying to do.
Right.
And she moved my arm and flipped me hit me down. I thought I would be strong enough to push her off of me. I couldn't do that. I had to tap her on the shoulder and say, can you let me up, please? I was so shocked that she was able to do that. You got ground fighting, male or female, and you don't know anything about it. They can, they want, and you can them from doing it. So, Ron,
Yeah.
That.
As for me, guys, I'm just soaking it up. You guys are the senseis here,
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I'm enjoying each and every one of you so much. So if I'm not very vocal, it's because I'm enjoying this so much to hear, the knowledge you guys are sharing right now.
Yes.
I'm a student for life, and they have great icons on here and get to listen to your philosophies, your stories, your thoughts on kind of the martial arts today. The differences from the old days to now. And I think I'm 60 years old. So I have witnessed changes to the martial arts, but you guys are my seniors, my tatas, and I love hearing your guys' views on the change of martial arts and how you feel about them, because I completely agree. I agree with each and every one of you.
That's big. That's big with the changes in the martial arts. And
is it just me and you, Ron?
No, listen, Al, you're
Are you on, Ron?
Yeah.
Ron's on. Ron's in there.
Yeah.
We got a Wi-Fi connection that just went off.
Everybody's in there.
Yep.
Everybody's here. Everybody's
All
good.
good.
It looks like you're getting a little feedback out there where you are with the.
Everybody went off except for me and you, Ron.
Oh yeah,
I think you're froze, Ron.
No,
really?
no, Ron's not froze.
PStock, you're out.
No, we're not out. No, I think you're out. You might have to go back out and come back in, Darren.
I think we all got to tap out and tap back in. I think this way.
I think Darren's he's out there. They're having that wind and heavy rain and all that stuff going on up there in Northern Cal, up there. You know, because everybody else is fine. Everybody else is, you know, signals is good. But Al, coming back to the conversation, you're new to the Dress the Culture, so you know we have a lot of backstory on Cjo Steve and Grandmaster Ron. Give our audience a little background and history on you and your family, and you gave us a little bit before with the Hawaiian side. Come on in.
All right. You know, I put a lot of the information out. You know, Ron also knows because he wrote the testimonial. You know, I don't know if you can see that. I have a book out called Legacy. You know, yeah, and you know,
Hold that back up again, Al. Hold the book back up, please.
Yeah. Please move it forward. Yes. There we go.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh. I think we have some really
much.
bad weather issues, PStock.
There we go. I think his phone rang.
Yeah, okay, that's called Legacy in the Eyes of a Warrior.
Yes.
And, you know, I put it out in 2016, and within that year, it reached the #1 spot. And I'm writing up a second edition on it because that covers a lot of things. Originally, the book was set up with close to over 700 pages, but the publisher said it was too long, so they cut it down to 274 pages. So, you know, I'm going to write more of it. But you know that when I wrote my book out, you know, because a lot of people, I actually wrote my book out because more so for my son Mark, you know, because you know every time when I you know, work with my son Mark, it was always, Dad, I need to know more about you. You know, I said, well, Mark, you know, I get so much to talk about. Why don't you just put it out in a book? And it became more of a therapy to write a book down on my life and legacy. You know, and you know, and it's talk about a lot of things. I talk about a lot about life, my philosophy on life, my mindset. You know, and such things as that. My family, you know, is made up. My nationality is Chinese, Filipino. My family actually came out of the Philippines and from Mongolia, China, and my parents actually, you know, met in Hawaii, and this is where, you know, the culture of what we had, you know, what came into being that of that nationality. You know, I had to learn the Chinese martial arts and of course the Filipino martial arts. It was part of the culture, and we never knew it. We just did it. It was almost like playing football or soccer. You just did it and never had a name for it. And that was always part of it. And that really started off, like I said, started off with respect and ended up with respect and still goes on. But there's much said to it. You know, my family has been a bunch of musicians, but the Filipino side, you know, back in the Philippines, they were actually pirates in the China Sea, and as being pirates, they were also musicians. You know, so it was just that the instinct of having that culture behind us. It was, you know, the Filipino culture is basically a knife wielding a mentality, or you know, with sticks and things that way. So it was always an innate thing that you learned it, and sometimes never even knew it. So when I started practicing the martial arts and started getting into the Chinese part of it, the kung fu that I practiced never looked like the kung fu that people would think it is, because I had a heavy influence on the way the footwork and the handwork of the Filipino martial arts was. So therefore, it really blended in when I met up with Cjo Emperado and you know, Cito Sanshin, because they were a combination of mixed martial arts. So when people look at what I do in the martial arts, we call it one hop kendo. It is actually the meaning of one hop kendo means mixed martial arts, which is basically another form of saying kaju kembo, which is kempo karate, Chinese boxing, kung fu, jiu-jitsu, and all of that. It's just a mixed arts. For me, when I say practicing the martial arts, I practice the expression of martial arts, not one particular martial arts, because all of them are good. I believe that it's an individual and his mindset that is a martial artist, not the art itself, because you can have some really good martial arts and some really bad martial arts. And the point is that it's the individual that how we use it. It's just like picking up a pistol. You can get a very good 357 Magnum, but it's not going to do any good unless you have somebody that know how to use it. And it's same like any martial arts. It's the individual and how we use it, and it comes from using the brains on it, because that's the biggest weapon that you have. That said, it can go into many different ways. When people ask me what is one hop kendo, I say, well, one hop kendo is not classical music, it is jazz, because we flow in and flow out, and you don't know where I'm coming from. It's because whatever your beat is or your rhythm is, I'm along with it. It's not like playing Chopin's music. I mean, it's jazz, and it's the way that I think. And the influence heavily came because of my training, basically in tempo, because I find tempo being so fluid than most martial artists, and it is so representative of what came out of Hawaii, because Hawaii was so mixed at that particular time. And when the other 8 people came to the mainland in the 1960s, we were already hand people. We were already using a lot of hand techniques, and we just exchanged more and became more innovative when we intermingle with the other martial artists that were already existence in here. So therefore, what came from Hawaii and what is now it represents Kaju Kempo or Kempo on the rest of the world is not what the Kempo that came out of Hawaii, because it's totally different. Something that came out in the 1960s is it's grown. It's so matured. It's so innovative. Because in the old days when we were coming out of Hawaii, I mean, we only have basic kicks: front kick, side kick, back kick, hardly any jumping kicks, and most of the kicks was never higher than the belly button. Now, I mean, it's going all over the places, so it becomes really innovative. Yeah, and the mentality, I think, is the way that it has progressed, and so you see a lot of things that's happening right now.
How is like I understand, Cjo, Steve, you got the security background as well as everything, like Ron does the entertainment and everything. Well, Steve, your style and everything you do, it's transcended, like all martial arts, into the entertainment industry and the entertainment side of everything now, like in the movies with the John Wicks and these new series, like the Jason Bournes and all these movies. Everything I notice when y'all see these movies, you see a little bit of what you teach being put out there. Correct?
Yes, that is correct. If you look at Wesley Snipes,
yes,
I did protective service on him.
Yes.
If you look at the Blade movies, I gave him movements for that Blade movie, and there were other movies that he did.
You choreographed him. You gave him the style. Okay. Yeah. See, I didn't know that. That's huge. That's huge.
Well, you find that they're looking for something that is very special. So there are movements that you give to them that may not be something that you do on the street, but it's beautiful for the show thing where the people jump up. Yay!
Yeah.
So some of them were, but there were other ones that you could and tell the movie people they show something that breaks his shoulder, say hit cross and hit him in the shoulder. You can see his shoulder break, or hit him in the jaw. do boom and see his jaw move over to the side or something
Sad.
like
Mhm.
that. They figure out ways to actually do that in that movie.
Right.
So when you saw Blade, you saw movements that were given to him get that to give to the people.
Right.
Just screaming, hollering.
Wow. Wow.
I think the movies are a big way to promote martial arts. Maybe not traditional, but I've seen a lot of good movies. Jim Mao, I've seen your son in many very
Jim
great
Ron.
movies. I'm a fan, Only the Strong too, demonstrating capoeira, one of the first movies I've seen, with the capoeira. And so many other movies he's played with, even Jet Li. But Jim Ron, I've been watching your movies from 40, 50 years ago, putting them on
Yes.
and watching them. A lot of great movement, I come from a Goju background too. My sensei was Sensei Rodney Hu, Stockton, California. He was originally from Hawaii side, but he trained, back then in Hawaii and here. But all of you guys, he's got such a rich history, for me
Yes.
to get to listen to each and every one of you. This is a great honor for me, I founded the Legacy about 12 years ago, and it was all about Filipino martial arts, honoring my teacher. But I opened it up to all Filipino martial arts, and we have been filming one a year for many years now. And had the opportunity of hosting the show, wanted to open it up to all martial arts. And you guys, you great martial artists, GMs, icons. Your history is so rich to have you on this show. It's so educational for especially the younger generation that
Yes.
don't know who you guys are. And let's hope they tap into this show.
All your
Connected to
stories.
that.
Yep.
Yes. And listen to your stories. I believe the old school is very needed to come back. I've seen changes in the martial arts scene. I've coordinated the Long Beach Internationals, Disney Martial Art Festivals. I did that for about 7 years. Stockton Legacy tournament. I had my experience of running tournaments in great platforms like Disney and Long Beach. So, you guys come from the old school, the beginning of Long Beach, and to see where it's at today. I don't think they've ran but one tournament in the last 3 years, but I'd love to see that come back strong. I really would, the tournament circuit, Long Beach Internationals. I wish all of that to come back strong. Disney ran into some problems back in about 2012-13, but it was a very phenomenal place to host Filipino martial arts. I love bringing Filipino martial arts into the Disney scene, the Long Beach scene, and you guys are historians of the beginning of that era, and it is phenomenal having you guys on the show. It really is. And thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much.
And especially GM Ron, your story, the Hangman. I want people to see it because that story is so important as well. It's very important to popular culture today, and his life story and his background in the Marine Corps and his travels and everything, as the Hangman being lynched in uniform is unbelievable. And that should be. I want that out there as much, and I love the work you do, Ron. I follow you on social media and everything, so you're constantly putting out stuff that I love, man. For us tech geeks and everything that like that, the cartoons, is great. I like that, But I would love to see us get a movie and do a movie together or something, outside of these segments or something entertainment. I believe that would be huge, and start to get the popular culture, the younger generation back in. What do you say, Ron?
Well, I'm scheduled to do a film with Michael Jai White and Timok, The Last Dragon,
Yes.
we're supposed to be shooting in February in Connecticut, and it will be a couple of months shoot. And it's like Boys in the Hood, but not gangs, but martial arts gangs.
Okay. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
a pretty
Sounds like
interesting
a really good movie.
screenplay that Michael wrote, and he's directing it. You know,
Yes. Yes.
and I'm playing the character Moses Powell.
Oh, you're playing your
awesome.
teacher.
I'm playing my first
Fantastic.
teacher, and I'm just so in awe of the ability to play my teacher. You know,
Awesome.
Yeah.
wow.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah,
And you know,
I got a call. I got a call from Adam James. Matter of fact, he grew up in Hawaii, and he was
Adam's
with
a
the late
regular.
GM Leo Fong, the late GM Bill Ryosaki, and he just told me he got a leading role in a Marvel film. I believe Doc Savage, and I believe they started filming too. So I'd
Wow,
love to
that's
get
great.
Adam James back on the show to talk about that show too. You know, that movie. That
Yeah, Adam James is great.
he's a part of.
We love it. I want to see it. I want to see more. You know, I mean, I like to see y'all all in the movie together. You know, you get up there and get it up. You know.
I hate to leave, but I got 20 minutes to get to the dojo for class, and
We
this is
got
the
you.
last
Thank you.
class of the
I
week.
don't. I don't. Thank you. I don't want to tie you all up. I know you have other things to do, and
Thank
I
you,
appreciate your
Grandmaster.
time. You know that's a part of addressing the culture. You know, a culture is a part of who you are. So you got to make sure people respect it, and that's what we want people to see.
Simplify.
Al,
Yeah.
simplify. I love you guys.
And, you know, something else I'd like to say again. Some of you might have heard me say this, but one of my biggest influences in the '60s, growing up, was my uncle Sonny Palabrica, who was a writer for Black Belt magazine. And C. Joe Muhammad said that you had known my uncle Sonny, and he was also trained in Japan, and I believe he was part of the judging and refereeing that brought into the first first internationals with Ed Parker Sr. But he had trained in Japan directly, you know, under Yamaguchi Sensei, and then he came here. But yeah, he was a writer, and that was my huge influence of reading a lot of the articles he did. And that's what it really inspired me a lot to become a martial artist as a young kid growing up. But my final art was Filipino martial arts. I started training that very young, at about 18 years old, under the late Grandmaster Angel Cabalas. He was my GM, and I honor him. And I try to keep his legacy alive and strong the best way I can. So, founding the legacy about 12 years ago, and this is what I've been concentrating on. Outside of now, with Address the Culture, with PStock, Bigg, Wallll, Capone, IOD 19, they opened this platform.
I gotta go.
What we have.
Okay, Ron, keep dropping the stuff on my timeline.
Okay.
Keep it coming. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Ron. Ron Van Clief, GM. Hey, that's okay. It's great. It's great that you know, we have this platform, and that's what I want for Al and C.J. Steve, Grandmaster Al. Anytime you have something to say, I want to come on, want to address the culture, address the popular culture. Come on, give me a hit. I follow you. I follow you, Steve, on Facebook and everything. Drop me stuff that you want promoted. Drop it on my time, and I'll send it out there in iHipHop world. You know, so anything you got, we got you. We love it. Keep it coming. We want your information, all of your information, to go as far as we can take it, and let's revitalize this martial arts. You know,
Awesome. That's great. That's great.
You know.
To be part of you, my brother, and I thank you very much for honoring me to be able to come on the show.
Oh, sir, anytime you want, hit us up.
Yeah.
GML, C.J. Steve, anytime. BKF, always welcome. iHipHopTV, Address the Culture.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
You guys are
Thank you.
big legends, man.
Legends, living
Your
legends,
knowledge
the
is
Icon
needed,
Show.
very much
What's your
needed.
legends? And anytime you want to get that message off, hit us up. You're welcome. Our platform is your platform.
I will do that, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to take a break. We get back, we'll wrap it up.
Thank
you
you
very much. The legacy continues. So that's what I'm saying. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight. Fubu Radio as well.
Fredro Starr, he was doing New York Undercover, and he wound up coming to the house, grabbing some shirts, and he went out and said, you know what, I'm gonna shoot this on a show. He shot on New York Undercover. He wound up getting killed in the shirt, but it was like for us, it was like a 30-second commercial. You know, when everybody was here and doing things, we were always trying to figure out how we can zig when others were zagging. You know what I'm saying? And when that third year came, we were so, you know, nervous, but at the same time, we was making the most money we ever made, you know, to date. That's when the whole 350 million thing came into part, because we started, you know, expanding. And now we're in 2020, so I got to see everything. I got to see it go from an 8-track to digital to streaming. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. Like, and the concept behind what we're doing with the radio station is kind of the same concept that we do with the clothing brand, because it's all about our community and giving back and building our people up. But once it got to the 90s and past there, you know, you can't really talk about hip hop without mentioning Fubu.
And the hip hop player's wardrobe, you know, when you out chilling, that was a staple in it. Hey guys, that was what I'm talking about. That was an iconic show right there. You know,
very iconic. And brother,
go ahead. I mean, it's great. Like kids. Yeah.
I think the weather played a role in today's show somewhat. I got knocked out several times, bro. But you know,
it deals with the digital. It deals with the digital platforms, the bandwidth. And so it goes with the playing field, but we keep it going, and that's why we like to edit. We edit, we record these things, because I've done a lot of live shows that boy, especially with artists, they get on there, they're playing music, they got their speakers, the microphone, and all you hear is, and then they think they're doing something. But you know, I mean, this is great. This is a show of shows, the iconic show. And I hope that I hope GM out of Dacascos comes back. We like to get him back with Ron and Steve or whoever, or by themselves. They want to come in and address the culture anytime, you know, because we need those young guys laid the foundations and the legacy. And Yunts are the guys that are delivering us and keeping us in touch with the ancestors of the arts. And coming on because Yunts have it now. Yunts are passing on, and like GML said, you know, and CJ, they all agreed that the day's martial arts is kind of, you know, soft. You know, they
movie scenes that wouldn't work in a real fight, and listening to these great men that have seen the evolution of the whole martial arts setup from Hawaii to here, you know, seen it spread worldwide. People got to listen to them, listen to what they have to say, because I believe it has become a problem in the martial arts setting, and we need these legends to speak their voice and let people know how they feel.
Yes,
we need this.
100%. You know, guys like you, Aladdin 19, Al Dacascos, GM. Steve and Ron, this is a way of life. You know, this is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle.
Yes.
And you know, 19, he laid it out.
Being my age, you know, I listen to these guys, and they remind me when I was young, listening to my senseis, you know, and they spoke with a what was on their heart. They got to speak on how they feel. And I think in today's martial arts, you see everything in the magazines, but a lot of people, I think, can't speak from their hearts on how they really feel about things. But I think it's a huge concern for the future of martial arts to listen to the old guys, okay, the old grandmasters, to speak about their concern for the future of martial arts. I really enjoyed this show. I did. I was popping in and out, but I got to hear it.
Hey, we got it down. We got the gist. That's why I said this could be the first of many to come through, because we need that, because you know, the younger generations, and this is my observation, and I see it with the kids. You know, I have grandkids, I have great grandkids, you know, and they gaff me off, you know, the same thing. And that's the problem. They don't want to hear what the elders have to say. So with that being done,
that's how real it is. And they got
with that being done, you know, that takes people out of their history. We need that history. We need our elders. We need to absorb the knowledge and the information from them, because when they're gone, they're gone. You're not going to be able to. When you need to ask them that question and to get that information, then you won't. They're not there. So that's why we do these shows. That's why we want this digital record, and that's why we want to. And that's why we want to, you know, keep these shows going, to create this digital record. You know, so the kids can look. You can refer to the kids. You can go to YouTube, pull it up.
Look at the
episode 1. Yeah.
Look at the influence of who they worked with. Guys like Wesley Snipes, Michael J. White, Dacascos, his son, Mark.
Dacascos. Yeah.
He's made so many movies, you probably can't count that many movies, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, this is huge. And it's a huge influence for martial artists.
Martial arts royalty. That's there in that martial arts royalty family in Hollywood.
Yes, it is.
But it goes farther beyond that, and you can hear the passion in Al talking about it. GM wasn't playing. You know, it's soft. You know,
he's concerned.
He's not playing.
He's concerned.
Yeah, he's concerned. He's concerned.
Yes. Beautiful,
so that's
beautiful.
That's what we're here for.
Tasi,
address the culture. You know, that's what we here. You know, let us know what you want to hear. You know, tap in on all platforms. You know, hit us up. You know, on iHipHopTV.com, on Facebook, and definitely go to YouTube. Check the shows. There's a lot of information out there, and everybody I send them to, like a lot of times, I'll take the link and I'll drop it in on somebody. And then the next day they say, well, I need more. You just can't send me one and stop. So I said, well, you got to go to the YouTube. Everything's there. I mean, there's over 40 episodes of great, you know, FMA arts. You got the healers. You got everything from the first season, which is actually was 2 seasons worth of shows there that we have. You know, so kicking off season 2, as we call it, this is actually like season 3. You know, because the legacy, you know, so here we go. But hey, it's great to have Darren on there. Go ahead.
Something else I want to say, brother. Hey, big shout out to your grandson, Damara Hamlin.
Oh, yeah.
We all prayed to God that he come through. He came through, brother. Yeah, wow, that's good. Big shout out to Palaka Namawe. And big shout out to the late Kaipo Tulasaga. And I believe his funeral was February 4th. And we tried getting Kaipo on the show. His health wouldn't permit it. Now he's gone, bro. But, you know, this show, this digital documentation you talk about, it is digital documentation of history.
Yes.
Okay. Martial art history. You know, never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I'd be part of a show talking to these great martial artists that paved the way for all of us. And it's not very often, PStock, where I get on a show and I feel like a teenager again listening to these guys because, bro, they've been there, done it. You know what I'm saying?
Icons, yes.
It makes me feel good.
Icons. Icons. You know, icons, iconic. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these guys can be mentioned up there with Bruce Lee. You know, they were synonymous with Bruce Lee.
Yeah,
Bruce Lee was the martial
all
arts
around the
revolution of the late 60s and the early 70s
revolution.
that picked up
Yeah,
steam here in the United States. And like Al
yeah.
said, and like you've always told me, Tasi, you, Palaka, everybody
Mhm.
always says everything comes through Hawaii. It came from the West. I heard Al say
Everything.
it tonight. It comes from China. It comes from everywhere. It hits Hawaii, and then Hawaii passes it
That's
over
it.
to the West Coast, and then it
Yeah.
spreads. That's the way the flow goes
That's, and, you know,
in the martial arts.
that's something else, brother, that I wanted to bring up because, you know, we have GM Al Dacascos and GM Ron Van Cleef living on the island.
On the
But
island,
I
right?
would have
That's
loved
correct.
to, yeah, I would love to give a shout out to, hey, what's going on with the graves over there, the old graves? You
Oh,
know,
at
they're building over them, man.
is
And
that still going
I
on
forgot
now?
to mention that to them. I forgot to mention it.
Yeah,
It's still going
yeah,
on, brother, and it's happening all over the island. You
yeah,
know?
yeah. It's happening all
We
over
tried
the country.
hard. I like to try harder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We got to do a
it's
show. We got to
happening
do another
everywhere, bro.
show.
It's going.
We got to do another
Sure,
show.
bro.
We got to
Sure.
do another
I like
show.
to,
It's time for
yes.
another
I
iFreedom
know they're
TV.
infringing. Yes, I believe they're infringing even on family members of Brother Tasi.
Now,
Are they having problems, Tasi, still? Or are they trying to build on John's dad's grave? Or have you heard anything on
What's
that?
happening with John's dad is the graves are sinking, and nobody's doing
Okay,
anything about it.
I
And
see.
then when you try to call, you get sent to a number, and then it's just like a recording, so you can't talk to anybody.
mm,
I see.
And I agree. I kept popping in and out, but the show, once Alden started really talking about how they felt about how the martial arts looks today, and they were right. They hit it exactly like Darren and
Yeah,
I've been seeing it. You have too many McDojos where if you go for 6 months, you
yeah,
get this color, and in 6 more months you get that. But you cannot determine how well you can fight in 6 months.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
Some of the greatest fighters, even these men we
yeah.
just had interviews with, they didn't learn their art in 6 months. They did it
No.
for a lifetime.
Yes. Yes.
They
To get to
dedicated their
those levels.
lives to it.
Yes, I agree. I agree. The people today,
Yeah.
the kids today that are coming up, everything's handed to them. It's almost, when I was in the Navy back in the day, we had terms for
Yeah.
guys like nuclear guys that come to the fleet. We call them push buttons because they come to the fleet and they give them rank automatically, you know. So they come to the fleet. So we call them push buttons, but they don't know nothing. You know,
Yeah.
that's the way these McDojo people is. It's amazing. I seen a guy and I
Yes,
love him.
and that's funny.
Say that again, Darren.
Yeah, but
What's wrong?
you in?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah,
We
I
hear-
can hear you. My daughter's 13 years old, and her husband's still in.
Your bandwidth's getting caught again.
Tasi froze up. Can you hear me?
No, you're freezing
Yeah.
up, Darren.
Am I
Tasi's good.
in? Oh,
Yeah,
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 I can
you're
hear
in,
Mike
but
now.
but you're having, yeah, you're better
okay. I'll
now.
freeze it up. Oh,
Yeah, you're better now. You're doing better.
okay,
now,
okay.
you know. So,
But, you
but
know,
yeah,
this was
so,
my daughter over 20 years ago, serving in the military. She's seen the change already happening, you know.
oh yeah,
But yeah, bro, you know, the martial arts, we hope the best for it. There is still a lot of us instructors that still try to teach the old way. And I've seen huge changes, and even Sarada Eskrima. It's not the same no more, you know. Things change in time. I think commercialism, speeding up rank has a lot to do with it. Skipping over basics, that has a lot to do with it too. Basics are the key to any system. If you fly through the basics, you're going to have poor advance. You're going to have poor everything. The basics are everything in all martial arts, brother.
all contact sports. Football, the basics is you got to learn to tackle, you got to learn to hit, you got to learn to run. you know, everybody's having. But hey, this has been another Address the Culture. Everybody's having technical difficulties. That's okay. That's how we do it on Address the Culture. Definitely tune in every Thursday and Wednesday. Well, Wednesday, 7 p.m. for Address the Culture for the show. And every Friday night for you want to tune in and catch iHipHopTV one-on-one. We have some great shows coming up on that. You know, and Address the Culture. You definitely want to catch Culture Connection with Big Wallll. You definitely want to stay in tune here. We got GM Darren. You back, D? Darren is back. You know, and you know, so that's been great. You know, we're going to keep it going. We're going to get ready for the next show. Hopefully, we have some better. Next time, it'll be on me with the weather. We have, you know, the weather's turning again. You know, it's getting cold. You know, we had a couple of a week with mid 60s, and we thought we was in summertime over here.
Yeah, we're gonna get hit this Saturday again, bro. I believe by a bigger storm. This storm today was bad, and I know trees are down everywhere. But hey, brother, thank you for this opportunity. And here goes another one. And give a shout out to Tone Big Wallll. I haven't seen him in a long time, man. And,
yeah, definitely. That definitely is. I haven't heard from him, so I know he's taking care of his family. He gotta do what thing. So and catch a break and build and prepare for 2023. You know, you definitely want to check out Big Wallll in London, Paris, on London, Paris's World coming up. You know, their second season. You know, you want to tune in and catch that show as well. You know, come on, Address the Culture and everything else. So everything's going. That's all we do is we keep putting them out. We're going to give you the content and the news that you can use, man. And this is Address the Culture. I'm your man, PStock. And we're here with Grandmaster Darren Tibon. Peace and blessings, everybody.
Like Ron Van Clief, Jim Van Clief says, quit calling me that.
All right, DT. Okay. Big DT.
Darren's good enough.
Tibon. There you go.
Okay.
All
right, bro. Thank you.
Right.
We did it. It happened. A beautiful show again. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right,
yes, sir.
bro.
Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings, bro.
We got the one. We got the only. We got that boy Ace Hood in the building.
You know, I just needed to go through my process. But for me, what I learned about myself is that I was like, you know, when I was with the major label in this situation, I noticed how much power I gave away, how much ideas and yeses and okays that I.
What would, you know, when we talk about just the beginning, what would Blood, Sweat, and Tears Ace say to Energy Ace right now?
Oh, man, I'm proud of you. You know, the reality is, man, it's like, this is what I learned. It's that it's not the industry that sort of speak the issue. It's like the individual that chooses to go in the industry, whether or not you are prepared for that. That's what I would say.
You made me sound way too excited.
I mean, he put that crown on your head, brother. You know, you ain't the crown holder for nothing.
Man, all right. Now, with all that being said, the first thing I want to know is, how did you get your name?
Shot Blizz derived from college.
What was the difference between now's era and the era of music and what was going on back then?
You know me, Blizz. You see me in here representing first and foremost. You get what I'm saying, though?
Good music.
The legacy continues, so that's what I'm saying, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. Fubu Radio as well.
Fragile Star, he was doing New York Undercover, and he wound up coming to the house, grabbing some shirts, and he went out and said, you know what, I'm gonna shoot this on a show. He shot on New York Undercover. He wound up getting killed in the shirt, but it was like for us, it was like a 30-second commercial. You know, when everybody was here and doing things, we were always trying to figure out how we can to zig when others were zagging. You know what I'm saying? And when that third year came, we were so, you know, nervous, but at the same time, we was making the most money we ever made, you know, to date. That's when the whole 350 million thing came into part, because we started, you know, expanding. And now we're in 2020, so I got to see everything. I got to see it go from an 8-track to digital to streaming. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. Like, and the concept behind what we're doing with the radio station is kind of the same concept that we do with the clothing brand, because it's all about our community and giving back and building our people up. But once it got to the 90s and past there, you know, you can't really talk about hip hop without mentioning FUBU.
In the hip hop player's wardrobe, you know, if you out chilling, that was a staple.